Hi everyone, welcome to Dimitras Dishes, and today we're going to be making one of America's favorite comfort foods, chicken pot pie, and I'm going to show you how to make it a little bit different, my way. I always do things a little bit different, but it's really easy. It's another meal that's like a one-pot meal that you make that's really, really simple and yet filling, comforting, delicious, and it's pretty healthy. Okay, so this is what you're going to need. A little over a pound, like a pound and a quarter of any kind of chicken. Chicken breast, chicken thigh meat, it could be boneless, it could be on the bone, it doesn't matter because we're going to cook it and make a little broth with it. It doesn't matter, whatever you have on hand. Some shredded Parmesan cheese, a little bit of flour, frozen vegetables. These are frozen mixed vegetables. There's like corn, peas, carrots, you know, the basic mixed vegetable bag. You just need a little bit. An onion, chopped pretty small, oregano, salt, pepper, and a little bit of cream. And you need some already pre-made puff pastry. That's it. Oh, and of course, that's not it. The main, the star of this chicken pot pie are my roasted vegetables. Now, this is what makes it different. It makes it extra flavorful, really, really special. And you can get this recipe on YouTube, obviously. I made this video a few days ago, and I made 2 trays. I wrapped one up in plastic and I froze it especially to show you how to make this recipe. So get the recipe, make an extra tray or 2 because you can use this in so many dishes. So let's begin by putting some olive oil in my pot, about a half a cup or a little more. Olive oil is good for you, so I like to use it liberally. But you know, you can use as much or as little as you want. The onion is going to leave a lot of moisture, so anyway, that's how much I put in. I'm going to put my onions in and cook them until they're really soft and translucent and a little bit yellow. You don't want these to get brown. It's going to take about 10-15 minutes. Let that go. Let me tell you what I have in this pot. Okay, so yesterday I had this chicken out, and so I decided to make my broth yesterday. That's why I'm warming that up right now. All I really did was put chicken in my pot, and I filled it up with water, and I let it cook about 45 minutes until the chicken was nice and cooked and soft. And all I did was added some salt in there, and that's a simple broth. You don't have to go out and buy chicken broth if you don't have it for this recipe. It's fine because you're going to boil your chicken anyway, and you can use the broth for this recipe. That's all I did. So this is nice and cool. I'm going to shred this chicken, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so let me tell you how I made the chicken broth for this recipe. I had a pack, which is about a pound and a quarter of boneless, skinless chicken thigh meat that I love to buy. So I just took that a little bit earlier and I put it in my pot. I filled it up with water and sprinkled some salt in there, and I just let it boil and lowered the temperature and let the chicken continue to cook for about 35 minutes, and the chicken was completely cooked. I took it out, and then I just shredded it roughly. I didn't shred it into tiny pieces. I like to have chunks in all different sizes in my chicken pot pie. I feel like it adds some character to it. And that's really all I did. You don't need to go out and buy chicken broth or chicken stock for this recipe because it's very, very simple to make. And I just did it like this. You're going to end up with about 5 cups of chicken broth at the end, which is perfect for this recipe. So I did that. I shredded my chicken. I'm going to put it on the side. And while my onions are cooking, they should be done in just a few minutes, I'm just going to chop up some of these vegetables. If you've never had roasted vegetables, make sure you make this recipe, not just for the chicken pot pie, but it is so delicious. I think roasting vegetables is the best way, the most delicious way actually, to eat them. So I'm just going to chop these up. Oops, lost another one. Okay. And everything else is already a pretty good size. There's carrots, cauliflower, onion, garlic, and some potato in here, and that's just going to add delicious flavor to this chicken pot pie. So I'm going to put this in here. Let me check on my onions. That's my oven that I already have preheating to 400 degrees. That's the temperature we need to cook our chicken pot pies in. And it looks like our onions need a few more minutes. They're still pretty white. They haven't got translucent yet, so we'll wait. Okay, so let me show you how we're gonna cut the squares for our chicken pot pie crust. And I know traditionally it's made with a crust on the bottom and on the top, but this really cuts the calories and gives you just enough crust. I think it's too much when there's a crust on the bottom. It gets soggy and everything. So when you just put it on top like that and you cover it, it gives that nice, crispy, flaky puff pastry top that we all love, but fewer calories, I guess, since you don't have extra crust on the bottom. So the best thing about this recipe, you can just make it in anything, any oven-proof cup, bowl, any pretty little container that you have that goes in the oven, you can use to make individual portions of this delicious recipe. So let me show you how you do it. I love making it in these teacups. It just looks really rustic and pretty and really nice. So it's really, you just cut it into squares, and it's going to drape over the cup anyway, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's it. You cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6. It's probably going to be more than enough for this recipe. Okay, so my onions have gotten really nice and soft and translucent. Let me show you what they look like. Let me move this to the side. Look at that. And there's already some onion in my roasted vegetables, but onion adds more sweetness, so I've put in a little extra. Okay, so now that my onions are cooked, I'm going to add about 3/4 of a cup of flour, and this is going to be the thickening agent. It's going to make the nice creamy filling, the nice thick creamy filling that's how chicken pot pie is inside. So we're just going to cook this just for a few minutes to get that raw flour taste out and give it a nice nuttiness and a nice earthy flavor. Okay, we're going to add our vegetables in now. And this is my favorite combination of vegetables. You could definitely add more vegetables in here, like broccoli or whatever you like. Asparagus is really delicious roasted. If you roast asparagus, it's so yummy. Like that. Put these, just a few frozen vegetables. I don't like a lot, just a little bit, because I love the way the frozen peas and the sweetness of the frozen peas and the carrots. I love the flavor that they add to this. I'm gonna add some black pepper. I put a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes in almost all my recipes, so why not put a little more in here? A tiny bit of salt. The vegetables have already been seasoned. A little bit of oregano. And then I'll add my chicken broth. So I'm just going to bring this to a boil, and it's going to begin to thicken. And right after it boils and begins to thicken, I'm going to add a little bit of heavy cream and Parmesan cheese, and it'll be ready to put in the cups. Okay, so we've added all of our vegetables. Forgot to add the chicken. I'm going to add my chicken in here. And my oven is done preheating. Again, you want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees, because this comes together really, really quickly. I'm going to cover it, let it come to a boil and thicken. And then we'll finish it off with a little bit of cream and some Parmesan cheese. Okay, so it's come to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, it thickens instantly. So you want to watch it. This is something that gets ready super quick. And here's a tip. If you want to make this the day before you're making it for like a girl's lunch or a nice, casual dinner, or say you just want to be prepared and make it a day ahead of time, you can totally do this the day before. Make the soup part of it the day before, let it cool, refrigerate it, and then the next day you can put it all together and just bake it off before your guests arrive or before you're ready to serve it. So let me show you what it looks like. It's so delicious, just like this. Honestly, it doesn't need another single thing. This is just a yummy soup all by itself, just like this, with some pita chips or some nice crusty Italian bread. You are good to go with this. But we're gonna kick the flavors up a few notches by adding some shredded Parmesan cheese. Not a lot, you definitely don't need a lot. About 1/4 to 1/2 cup is more than enough for this big, huge pot of soup. And then to make it a little more creamy and luxurious, we're gonna add a tiny bit, like 1/4 cup of heavy cream, heavy whipping cream. Just a little bit, not a whole lot. It just gives it that touch of elegant richness. And at this point, you can definitely taste it and check the seasoning. And if it needs a little bit more salt or pepper, just go ahead and add it. This is my excuse to snack a little bit. So, so delicious. I'm gonna add a little more black pepper because you guys all know that I like my food a little bit on the spicy side. And that's it. This is ready to go into our bowls, our cups, whatever. What I've done here, I've taken 2 egg yolks and put a little bit of milk, and I'm just gonna mix it all together with the brush. And this is just to brush on top of the puff pastry to give it that nice golden color. So here's how we do it. We ladle the soup into the cups, and I'll put it on a baking sheet so that way it's easy to transfer in the oven. Fill all of my cups up first. So I have some left over. Actually, I have a lot left over. This, see how much there is? There's a lot. So this can get put away. I have a big family, so the six of us can finish probably this whole pot. I could say that shamelessly, actually. Okay, so what you do is you take your little squares and you just put them on top of your utensil. Not utensil, of your cup or bowl. And you could spread them out a little bit, just like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut little slits, so that way the filling, once it boils, it has room for the steam to escape. And it looks really nice when you serve it. I'm gonna brush the egg wash on top. And that's going to give it a really nice golden brown color once it cooks. Pop it in the oven, and I'm going to let it bake for about 40 minutes, 40 to 45 minutes, maybe a little bit less, until the top is all nice and golden and the inside is really bubbly. It's probably going to take a little less than that, maybe about 30 or 35 minutes, since everything is so nice and hot. And I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. Look at that. The chicken pot pies are all out of the oven. Let me take one out and show you what they look like. So yummy. How beautiful is that? Look at it. Gorgeous. They're golden brown on top. Just the way they should be. Let me get a spoon and show you what they look like inside. How nice and thick the filling is and how crispy and flaky the puff pastry got. It is just so, so good. I let it bake for 40 to 45 minutes in a preheated 400-degree oven. If your oven's temperature is really, really hot, you can definitely bake it at 375 for 45 minutes to an hour. That's fine too. Just make sure that it's really nice and hot and bubbly and golden brown and perfectly cooked on the outside. Get this recipe and more. Go on my website, www.dimitrasdishes.com, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Enjoy.